It was such a pain point moving that Premier One fence through all the brush. So that's my primary reason. Maybe it's selfish of me, but that's my primary reason for wanting to clear this away. Now, hey yo folks, welcome back. Missed you last week. I was busy cleaning out the barn, which, while somewhat exciting to me to see the progress that just clearing out all the junk that had accumulated in the barn, it wasn't worth filming a video over, but it was necessary. I needed to get it done. But anyways, today I think there are some interesting things to film. Namely, we're going to be working on our Silvopasture project here. I'll talk a little bit more about my plans for the pig Silvopasture down there, but before I do, let's talk about a pretty big event that's coming up here next week. Hey Lenny, how you doing? Don't worry, you're not on the chopping block next week. Lenny's not on the chopping block, but all these guys are. So we're gonna be processing our turkeys, 5 turkeys for Thanksgiving. We'll probably eat one of them for Thanksgiving, but we'll save the rest of them for meat. They're big enough, they're ready, they're starting to get aggressive, especially the 2 toms that we have. They're starting to chase each other and bully their dad Lenny, even though he's holding it down as much as he can for being half blind. But it's time. They are ready to be processed, and next week's the week. So I've got all the equipment here. I need to kind of give everything a dry run before I set it up. But that'll be next Saturday. And my plan is to corral them into the A-frame first thing in the morning, which is what I did last year, and it seems to work pretty well. And once I do that, I'll talk about it more next week, but I'll shepherd them through the processing, the harvesting process. We'll take them to the kill cone. We'll have a barrel set up with boiling water in it. We'll get their feathers off, and then we'll process them. One thing I did different this year is I bought much bigger shrink wrap bags to put the carcasses in and put them in the freezer. Last year we used chicken bags, and I had to spend a lot of time cutting the turkeys up into quarters, which, yes, it makes it easier to heat them up when it comes time to cook it, but also a lot more time consuming. And we don't mind defrosting those big turkeys over the span of a few days. I'm getting off on a tangent. Suffice it to say, next week we will be processing these guys. It's time. They're ready for it. I'm hungry. And they're going to be processed next week. Also, real quick, let's talk about the garden. So my winter greens are doing great. They're actually looking quite healthy. We've experienced several frosts. I neglected to videotape it, but we actually experienced snow a few days. We had a rare Arctic blast. It's rare this early in the season for us. And so we got down to like the low 20s, and it was snowing, and there was hard frosts. But these greens seem to be pretty resilient. Now we're eating them, obviously, for salads and stuff, but they're also serving as a cover crop. There's no way we're going to eat all of these greens over the next few weeks. And a lot of them will start to die off as we start getting into really hard frosts. But that's fine. I'm treating this as a cover crop, and it's doing well. It keeps the soil in a good place for where we're at in the season. And that actually leads me to, speaking of cover crops, the buckwheat. The buckwheat's all dead, and it's died off. I covered a lot of the beds with buckwheat. You can see it. And I'm just going to leave it here. I might pull it up from the roots and just lay it down. Kind of a chop and drop, but more of a pull and drop. I'll pick this buckwheat up and just let it serve as a type of mulch over the season. The radishes and turnips, let's see how they're doing. They're doing great in this weather. As you can see, this one looks a little funky at the bottom, but this was an experiment. I never grew radishes or root vegetables this late in the season, and they seem to be doing quite well. The other thing that's doing really good are our snow peas. You'd think with a name like snow peas, they'd do okay with a little bit of frost, and that appears to be the case. These things aren't only thriving, they're also kicking out flowers. Check that. Even a little bee on there, which I think might be dead. Nope, he's not dead, he just stung me. But yeah, check it out. Look at that. they're still kicking out flowers this late in the season. Now, how much longer are they going to hang on when we keep getting lows in the 20s every night? I'm not sure. One thing that is odd is they still haven't kicked out any peas. So although they might look pretty cool, they're still not kicking out any peas. We'll keep an eye on this, what's flowering here, and see if we get any peas at all during the season. But if not, I'm fine. It was a late season experiment, and I'm pretty happy with what I see. The tatsoi, of course, is doing great. Tatsoi is my favorite green. I've talked about it millions of times in previous videos. I love tatsoi. We love tatsoi. It's a very hardy, robust, tasty green that does well in cold weather and hot weather. It's like a super green. It's almost got like a sweeter flavor now that it's experienced some frost, even though it's old. This also is a great cover crop. So I may need to do a little bit more clearing of the garden in the next few weeks, but I'm happy with where it's standing right now. One thing that I did last year was I had my chocolate cake edging. I took metal edging and put it all around the garden just to see if that would help keep the weeds a little bit more controllable, the Bermuda grass. And it mostly did. And I want to show you the difference between, this is the area where we had the edging set up. Now, of course, there's a couple of weeds here and there, but let's compare it with where I didn't have the edging in the tomato beds. There was no edging. We just let it do whatever it needed to do. This is what happens with Bermuda grass. This is how thick and insane it gets when you don't have any sort of program to keep it at bay. Just compare it. Look at that. Yes, this isn't perfect. There are some weeds growing here, but it's a far sight better than what you see in the tomato beds where we didn't have any sort of weeding program. And this was all natural. We didn't use any sort of Roundup or spray or chemicals. This was just a natural program to try and keep the weeds at bay. And while it's not 100% effective, I'd say it's a good 85 to 90% effective. I'm pretty happy with it. What else do I want to show you guys before we get to work on the Silvopasture? The pig pen, the pig stall, I cleared it out. I think I showed in the previous video how this was just covered in junk. We were using it as a storage spot. And right now I mostly cleared all of that away. I kept a couple sawhorses in here, a couple buckets. But otherwise, this stall is cleared out and ready for a little bit more adjustment. I'm going to put down some charcoal in here, help create that Korean natural farming deep bedding system that I've been talking about. We're going to do that in here too, but it'll be a lot easier because all of the junk that was in here is gone. And real quick, for anyone that isn't familiar with the Korean natural farming style deep bedding system, it's a work in progress here in the back. This is where we're going to have pigs. The first layer is charcoal, which I'm happy to say, this whole area, at least under the lean-to, is covered in charcoal. A lot of it you can't see because there's straw over it, but the charcoal base is in place. Next up, obviously we need to fill up our logs. I'm going to split some of these up so they're lower to the ground. Why do we use logs in a Korean natural farming style deep bedding system? It simulates the forest floor, but I think the biggest reason is that when you have pigs in a contained space, they're going to want to root. And the logs form a natural barrier to deep rooting. We are going to make sure our pigs root out there and not in here. A lot of places, a lot of commercial farmhouses, and even small farming operations that raise hogs, they'll have concrete floors where they keep their pigs. The reason they have concrete floors is to keep them from rooting. I prefer not to use concrete floors. I prefer to use something a little bit more natural and that simulates their natural habitat. Hence the forest floor, hence these logs at the bottom. Again, I'm going to cut these up so they're a little bit lower and they don't stick up as much. And ideally I'd like to cover that area too, but as you'll see here in a minute, we've got so much brush, so many down trees, so many logs, so many sticks that this area will be covered up very easily. And I had asked a question, it was either in the previous video or the video before that, about what I should do with my breast chickens once the pigs arrive. Originally, I was going to process these guys for meat, but they've grown on me. And the reason they've grown on me is because the hens are incredible layers. Each one of them lays an egg a day, and they're great eggs. So while I may call Vince and this other rooster, and I'll probably keep Dion over in the, our wanderer over in the breezeway of the barn, I'll probably keep these guys, at least the hens. So they're not gonna be here. I had asked the question, should I be able to keep, or should I keep my chickens with my pigs? And the answer was a resounding no. And the research I've done, when pigs get big enough, they will eat chickens. I'm looking at a vulture up there. The chickens got freaked out by it. They will eat chickens. And so I just don't want that to happen. So I don't know if I'm gonna keep these with the layers in the south barnyard. I'll probably create a separate little coop and area for them somewhere else out over there, just to have their own space. So that's what I'm gonna do with the breast chickens. It's kind of a bummer because I did create this stall just for chickens, but that's okay. I can repurpose the stall for other things. And maybe even put the piglets in here, who knows? And when I get chickens in here again, I can repurpose it for chickens. It's easy to do. So these stalls aren't meant to house one type of animal forever. They're meant to be multi-purpose. And so when we move the breast chickens, we'll reuse that stall, that barn stall, for something else. All right, silvopasture. Let's talk a little bit about that. Silvopasture is the practice of grazing animals in the woods, in the forest. And typically, when you graze animals in the forest, it helps if the understory, the brush layer, is at least moderately cleared away. A lot of times you can get animals that will clear away the understory. Pigs probably can do a good job at that. But the more cleared away the understory is in your silvopasture setup, the easier it is for your animals to get around and graze and get what they need to get. So I'll probably spend a bit more time talking about my actual vision for silvopasture over here. But long story short, right now there's too much brush down here. The understory is a little bit too thick. I'd like to keep the bigger trees, this cedar or this juniper or whatever it is. I'd like to keep this and trees like it. There's another one over there. There's another one over there. But all of the smaller trees, the young trees, the brush, the honeysuckle, the thorn bushes, I'd like to get rid of that just to give our pigs a little bit more roaming room and easier access to them. And I'll be honest with you guys, the primary reason I'm doing this is just to make it easier to move fencing around, because when we did pigs last time, Frankenbeans, I'll see if I can pull up some old footage of us dealing with Frankenbeans. When we moved them around here back in the woods, it was such a pain point moving that Premier One fence through all the brush. It was bad, it was hard. I would spend hours making sure the fence was right, just trying to get the fence moved around through and around and under all the different brush and young trees. So yes, you picture a silvopasture with moss blanketed ground and no brush and nice big tall trees and cattle grazing underneath it or pigs grazing underneath it. And that's a beautiful vision. But for me, it's more about the pain in the butt that moving electric fencing is when you have all this brush and understory. I want to be able to move those pigs often under here. Yes, I want their home base to be the deep bedding there, but I do want to get them out here, and I want to be able to move that fence easily. Imagine trying to move a Premier One fence through all this brush and thicket every day, or at least every other day, or even twice a week, depending on how often you move your pigs. It's a huge, huge pain. I want to avoid that. So that's my primary reason. Maybe it's selfish of me, but that's my primary reason for wanting to clear this away. Now, let's walk out here. I'll show you the scope of what I'm trying to do. So the pigs will live up there. That's going to be their home base. But I'd like to pasture them out and move them down through here. Now, you'll remember a few weeks ago, This was all forest. From there up to about there was just woods, was forest. I cleared it out. This pile is some of the remains of that. I'm going to use this stuff in their deep bedding, their pen. I'm going to continue piling up wood here to use in the deep bedding system. But I'd ideally like to get this forest cleared out all the way down to where there's a trail in the woods. I want to be able to look directly down and see the trail. That's my goal. So I'm going to keep at it. I don't know if I'll get all the way down to the trail today, but I'd like to keep at this project and get this opened up. Probably that spot too. These woods I'll probably keep as a natural barrier, but all of that and all of that, I want to be able to go down and see from the barn down to the trail. And when I'm down there on the trail, I want to look right up and see the barn. So when I started this morning, I had one goal for my work today, and that was daylight between the barn and down there, that trail in our woods. This was all pretty heavily forested, at least understory was down here. There's a few large trees, this cedar right here, that cedar, is that a cedar? Yeah, that's cedar back there. And then those are the two main ones, actually, that I cleared around. All of the brush and small trees around here, I cleaned up. Now, obviously, this is not done. We have very large piles of brush that I need to either cart away, put in the pig run, or burn in place. But this area, my goodness, thank you, Captain Crunch and a chainsaw. This is open. This is Silvopasture. This is it. Now, yes, it needs remediation and it needs work, but that's what pigs will be for. They'll be down here, they'll be running this area, and the fencing situation will be so much easier to deal with. Now, one big thing I need to take care of is this downed cedar. I don't know how long this thing's been down for. I think this has been down since we moved in. I'll chop this up. Chopping up the limbs off of cedar is always a pain because it has millions of them. But I'll take my time with it. I'll chop it up and I'll put this stuff in the pig pen. I want to clear out more of that, except for the big trees, remember. I'm doing a silvopasture thing here. And then this area over here. So all of that scrub, all those little trees, I'll probably keep this cedar, this young cedar right here. I'll definitely keep this cedar right here. All the rest of this is going to go out. But man, look at this, guys. It's not easy to convey how dramatic of a change this was over video. Like you can see this and you can see the before shots and the after shots, but actually standing here and being here and looking up and boy, there's the barn. I'm down in the woods. There's the barn. That's huge. Psychologically, that's huge because as long as we've lived here, this has all just been thick, gnarly scrub. And now it's cleared out. Yes, remediation. What else do I need to do? Clean that thing? Yes. But right now, I'm just going to sit back, look at this, and be glad that I did it. One thing I'll note is we had a couple mimosa trees. And mimosa trees are awesome because they smell good. But they're not awesome because they're very, very invasive. And I was surprised at how hard the mimosa wood was. That was tough stuff. And heavy too. So I'm not sure. I need to find out if there's anything special I can do with mimosa wood because I've got a lot of it. I cut down a couple big mimosa trees. If you guys know of any special things you can do with mimosa wood, let me know because we got a lot of it. And it's heavy, but I'm just going to sit back and take a look at my handiwork today. I'd say we want to get that area out there cleared, except for the big trees and that little patch right there. And that's all I want for our 2 pigs that we get. And then we're done. And then I can shift around the paddocks and the electric fence so much easier. I won't have to scramble my way through the jungle and weeds and brush every time I want to move their fence. Yeah, this is awesome. Man, this is cool to see. Next week is special because we harvest the turkeys for Thanksgiving just in time. Not all of them. Lenny and Laverne and Shirley are going to stick around. But these youngins are going in the freezer. And I'm excited because I love turkey. All right, Lenny? Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We got a lot done today, didn't we? It feels good. It feels good to just spend an entire day knocking out a project and then looking back on it and seeing how much progress you've made. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us. Until we see you again, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.